Hi, my name is Bandy, and this is my channel, Bandy's Books. We are back with another recipe. For the last few recipe videos, we've been doing spooky themed videos because it was October and I was reading all spooky books. But now we're into November and we're going with a new theme. So this month I am trying to read things that have some emotional complexity. I'm not sticking to one specific genre, but I am trying to read things that are gonna create an emotional response in the reader. And I'm also doing a no buy November because I bought way too many books in October. So I'm trying to clear things that are off my TBR and on my library holds list. So this particular book was one that's been on my library holds list for quite a while. I had about 2 months that I had to wait for it, and I finally had the opportunity to read it. It's a pretty short book, so I was able to read it pretty quickly, and that is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is the cover of it. Since I had it in ebook format, all I have is just, a nice little picture of it. This book features a character named Nora Seed who is struggling with a bit of depression. I shouldn't say a bit. She's struggling with pretty severe depression. Things in her life haven't turned out the way that she anticipated. She is kind of regretting a lot of the choices that she's made and wondering what would have happened if she'd taken some different routes. Some of her relationships with people that are important to her have kind of fallen apart, and she's just not in a good place. I don't want to give away too much of the story, but she's given the opportunity to kind of look at her life had she made a few different choices. And it leads into some alternate verses where she's exploring different opportunities. So there's a couple different times where food is mentioned within this book, and in this particular instance, in one of the scenes where she's revisiting a different version of life, her brother Joe is cooking dinner. So let's see what the book says about it. It says, Joe and Ewan were lovely with Molly, asking her detailed questions about what Panda was up to, and Joe cooked them all a great garlicky pasta and broccoli meal. It's Puglian, apparently, he told Nora, getting a bit out of our heritage in there. Nora thought of her Italian grandfather and wondered what he had felt like when he realized the London Brick Company was actually based in Bedford. Had he been truly disappointed, or had he actually just decided to make the most of it? So her brother is cooking her a pasta inspired, by a Puglian dish. It is a garlicky broccoli pasta. Traditionally, it's made with orchiette. In my case today, I'm going to make it with a ziti because my local store unfortunately did not have orchiette. But it's still going to be a really tasty dish. It's super, super easy, just a handful of ingredients. And this is definitely something you could do in 20-30 minutes for dinner at home, for a family meal in no time, no sweat after work. Okay, so we're going to go over the equipment that you need. And in this case, we're going to start in kind of a weird order. So you're going to need a couple pots. One is going to be for blanching broccoli, or broccolini in this case. We'll be going over that in just a minute, but you can go ahead and get it started, at the beginning. And one is going to be for boiling our pasta. In both cases, we're going to give a generous amount of salt into the water. So, a decent little pinch. And I'll go into more detail about the blanching process and the pasta cooking process when we're actually doing the recipe. But since this is a very quick recipe, it all is going to go really fast. Just go ahead and get that started in the beginning. You're also going to need a sauté pan to cook the sauce and kind of toss everything together in. Okay, in addition to our pots and pans, we also need a cutting board, a knife, and a microplane. In terms of ingredients, today we are going to be needing pasta. In my case, I have some ziti, but the traditional would be orchiette, which is like a little bowl-shaped pasta. We have some good quality Parmesan cheese, some garlic, some anchovies that are packed in olive oil, some chili flakes, lemons, a little bit of olive oil, broccolini, and butter. And then in this case, we're going to add some shrimp to this dish to make it a little heartier. You could definitely do this as a vegetarian dish without the shrimp. That would be perfectly fine and great for a nice little vegetarian lunch option. In our case for dinner, we're going to add a little shrimp just to give it a little bit more protein content. You could certainly do it with chicken or fish or whatever protein you want to add if you do want to add some protein to it. So we're going to go ahead and get started then. Okay, so we have a nice bunch of broccolini here. I enjoy broccolini. I think it has a nice sweet flavor. You could use broccoli rabe if you wanted. Personally, I do not care for broccoli rabe. That has a very bitter taste, and I'm not a super big fan of bitter. So in this case, this is what I'll be using. So we're going to go ahead and blanch this to start. And I just wanted to take a moment to go over properly blanching vegetables. In the case of green vegetables, blanching it is going to allow the vegetable to stay nice and bright, vibrant green. And the way that we blanch a vegetable is we put it into salted, heavily salted boiling water. We let it boil for just a couple minutes, and you'll notice that the green is going to get really bright and vibrant. At the moment that that happens, when the color starts to turn really nice and dark green, we're going to pull it out, drain it, and then we're going to shock it. The process of shocking it is covering it in cold water and adding ice, and that stops that cooking process immediately. If you've ever seen like green vegetables that have been sitting on a buffet for a while, you'll notice that they're like a camouflage green color, really unappealing. And that is because they've just been cooking to death on like something that's too hot. So this blanching process is going to allow these to maintain the color a little more. So your pasta is going to look a little more appealing. Instead of having like wilted brown broccoli, you're going to have a nice, bright, vibrant green broccoli. And it's going to allow it to partially cook as well. So you just really toss it in with the sauce to warm it through instead of cooking it to death. So in we go. We're just going to go ahead and throw the whole bunch in. After we've cooled it off and shocked it, we're going to chop it up. Okay. Time to go. Alright, so our broccoli has been blanched. You can see it's a nice vibrant green. We're going to go ahead and strain it. Okay, when it's strained, you can see how deep and green that is. Sorry, the steam's probably getting in the way, but you can really see the color coming through. To keep it that nice green color, we're going to go ahead and immediately submerge it into cold water. And I have a bowl of ice here. We're going to top that with ice, and we are going to let that sit there and cool off. The reason that we're doing this is because it's immediately stopping the cooking process. So now that our broccolini is cooled off and properly blanched, you can see it's got that beautiful green, vibrant green color. We're just going to go ahead and chop it into some smaller pieces. So we're going to take the crowns off first. So these will be nice little, bite-sized pieces in the pasta instead of like a huge stem. And then don't throw away these stems. We're actually going to slice them up. The stems are a lot more tender on broccolini. And honestly, even with regular broccoli, you should be using up the stems. There's so much you can do with it. In this case, we're going to slice them up and toss them in with the pasta. No point in wasting good food. So we're just going to kind of cut them into little bite-sized pieces that'll fit nicely with a couple bites of pasta. And these leaves are okay as well on the broccolini. They have a nice flavor. They're not going to kill you either. The only thing that I kind of look for is if there's a really big stem like this, I'll kind of take the very, very end off of it, just because they can be a little woody sometimes. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just throw that in there. Here we go. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and pop our pasta into the salted boiling water. So you definitely want to give your water a generous helping of salt whenever you're cooking your pasta. If you don't, it tends to be kind of bland flavoring, and then you're relying on all of the sauce to really flavor your pasta. So if you get a piece that doesn't have any sauce, it doesn't have any flavor. So always a little bit of salt in your water with your pasta. This pasta in particular is going to cook about 10 to 11 minutes for al dente. Al dente again means that it just has a little bit of bite left. A lot of Americans tend to overcook their pasta to kind of a mushy texture. If you have proper pasta in Italy, it is going to have at least a little bit of a bite to it. In fact, I've had many friends tell me that they found the pasta in Italy chronically undercooked, but this is actually the proper preparation. So we're going to go ahead and set a timer, and then we're going to get started on the sauce. The sauce is just going to take a couple minutes, so by the time the pasta is finishing up, everything should be cooked here. We're going to throw it together and be ready. Okay, so we're going to start making our sauce. If you're going to do this without the shrimp, or if you're using a different protein, just put it in place of the shrimp. If you're not doing the shrimp, then just skip this step and go to the next part. So we're going to season the shrimp with some salt. Not super heavy, but just, you know, a light seasoning. And we're going to add a little bit of olive oil to our pan. You can see that our pan is shimmering and hot. See how the oil is kind of nice and fluid in the pan? It means our pan is heated and ready to go. If you hear that sizzle, you're in good shape. Okay, so we want to get some nice color on our shrimp. As I've mentioned in previous videos, you don't want to stir things around too much. You kind of want to just let them sit and get their color. If you're constantly moving it, color doesn't develop as well. Just going to let that sit there for just a minute. And shrimp cook very fast. As you can see, they're already starting to turn pink. One thing that is a huge pet peeve of mine is when people cook shrimp and they really overcook it. I just want to get a little bit of color on them, and then we're going to start adding the remaining ingredients to make the sauce. Because they're going to finish cooking in the sauce. We don't need to cook them all the way through at this stage. Just want to get, like I said, a little bit of color on them to start that cooking. Okay, so the next part of our sauce is to give a little bit of this anchovy oil here in the pan. And we're going to put in about 4 whole anchovies there. I think that's 4 there. We're going to kind of just let them cook down in the sauce. Actually, we'll even add a 5th because we're doing a whole bag of pasta here. So just let that cook down in the sauce. The anchovies are going to kind of disintegrate on their own. Otherwise, you could chop them up if you're really concerned about them being in small pieces. But because they're small, fragile fish, you can see as I'm cooking them, they're already kind of dissolving and coming apart. So you don't really need to cut them up or anything. You're just going to kind of break them up as you go. Okay. So you're going to let them cook down just a tiny bit. And we've got, our shrimp going over here. Like I said, they're going to kind of continue to cook. So I just kind of push them over to the side of the pan a little bit. That's why I'm using such a big pan, is so I can kind of develop the sauce over here while the shrimp continues to cook over there. And this is kind of also the reason that I picked shrimp to go with this dish, because I feel like, since there's anchovies in the base of the sauce, it's already kind of a seafoody taste. So I thought that the shrimp would go nicely. You could add, fish or clams or something else if you wanted to go with something besides shrimp. Right, so now that our anchovies have disintegrated a bit, we're going to go ahead and add in a whole bunch of garlic. I think this was 6 big cloves here. We're just going to let that stir fry for just a minute. So the trick that I usually use for stir frying garlic is just until I can smell it. Usually about a minute, kind of right when the garlic starts to become really fragrant. And then you don't want to cook it too much more because it can kind of get bitter if you continue too much further. So got about a minute there. I can smell it. So we're going to add just a light sprinkling of some chili flakes. Don't want this to be a super spicy dish. We're just adding a little pop of heat into it. We're going to give those chilies just a minute to toast up with the anchovies and garlic. We're going to add we're going to add a little more olive oil. Kind of start building that sauce. And this is where we're going to start tossing the shrimp in with everything, letting everything kind of meld together. This isn't the most traditional thing, but I like a squeeze of lemon juice in my pasta here, just because I feel like it kind of brightens up everything a little bit here. I like lemon on my shrimp, but also with my anchovies and all that, it just really kind of enhances the dish for me. So adding a little bit of lemon. maybe about a half a lemon. And also, again, not the most traditional way to do this, but I like to add a little bit of butter, like maybe tablespoon and a half, just to give the dish a little extra richness. I'm gonna let that melt in there. As you can see, our shrimp are just about cooked at this point. So we're gonna be finishing this off rapidly so they do not overcook. We're gonna go ahead and return our broccoli that's been, or our broccolini in this case, that's been chopped up and blanched. And see how nice and pretty that looks with it, you know, the pink of the shrimp and then the bright green broccoli. That's why we wanted to blanch it and, you know, have it kind of pre-cooked so it doesn't really break down and turn an ugly color. Then we're gonna give it a little bit of salt, just check the seasoning there. I'm gonna give it a crack of fresh ground pepper. Okay. And that is it. Now we're just waiting for our pasta. Okay, so our pasta is cooked and drained, so we're gonna go ahead and toss this in. Actually, we're just gonna toss the sauce with the pasta, kind of just make sure everything's coated nicely. As you can see, that nice pop of green, the pink, it all looks really pretty together. All right, and this is ready to serve. All right, so I'm gonna make sure when we ladle this in here, we get some shrimp, good amount of pasta, some broccoli. We want to get, of course, some of that nice juicy sauce at the bottom and the garlic. This smells so good. I know a lot of people here are really hesitant to do things with anchovies. I used to be as well, and I understand like the inclination. It is a strong flavor, but in this dish, it kind of blends in really nicely, so you don't have to worry about it being super, super fishy. To finish our bowl off, we're just gonna grate some nice, good quality Parmesan cheese left, like right on the top. This cheese was left over from our risotto dish last week, so I'm just using that. I didn't go out and get anything super fancy, but I do like a good quality cheese instead of like a, you know, pre-shredded bag or like a grated can, just because this melts a lot better on the pasta. So, under our mountain of cheese is our dish there, and we're gonna go ahead and give it a try now, see how it went. All right, so our pasta dish is complete. You can see it sitting in the pan there. I've got a nice bowl covered in cheese here. This was a total cooking time of about 15 minutes. We had the pasta going at the same time we're making the sauce, and it just comes together really quick and easy. Like I said, if you have a family dinner after a long day of work, this is a dish you need to try. It's filling, it's tasty, and it's super, super easy. I'm really excited about it. I'm even more excited because it was inspired by a pretty cool book. If you haven't read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, I suggest checking it out. And if you've never tried cooking with anchovies before, let me know in the comments. I'm curious to see if you're skeptical about it because of that one ingredient or if it's something you want to try. And of course, if you have any questions, if there was anything that we were unsure about at any time in any recipe, please let me know in the comments because I'm happy to give advice, coach, and walk you through anything you're unsure about. I am so looking forward to this. This is my dinner tonight, and it smells so good. The seafood, the garlic, the lemon, the chilies, everything is just so, so fragrant. I really wish they would hurry up and invent a way to funnel the smells from my house into your phone or TV or whatever you're watching this on because it's so delicious. So we're going to go ahead and try that first bite. I'm going to make sure that I get some pasta, some broccoli, and a piece of shrimp just so I have a little bit of everything. Just got a nice, you know, even bite there. Perfect. The shrimp is nice and juicy. It's not overcooked or dry. A little bit of citrus brings out all those flavors. Sorry, I shouldn't talk with my mouth full. That's so good. Anyways, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. I love getting feedback and understanding what is working and not working for you as a viewer. And if you like my book-related videos, please consider subscribing. I do post a video every single Tuesday with a new book-related recipe. And on Thursdays, I post book hauls, book reviews, holiday-themed book content. all sorts of different stuff. I'm very reliable. I've been keeping it up since I started posting like clockwork every Tuesday and every Thursday. And hopefully I'll see you again. Again, I'm Caitlin Bandy. This is Bandy's Books. Bye.